So there's one way to say that this voice inside of my head isn't me. It's just a part of me. It's an aspect of me, right? People go, I've got this, I am this way, or I am that way, or I've got this problem, or I've got this, I have anxiety every time the phone rings. That's it. I have anxiety every time the phone rings. Well, curiously, you could go to the level of identity and say, oh, so you're an I'm not sure what the word is for a person that has anxiety. An anxietyac. There should be a word for an anxious person. That's who I am. I'm an anxious person. That's one way to do it, and that'll get you stuck. You know, or there is this behavior going on. But what if you could say, and something that I often say to people, by the way, consider that this can be about anything, whether it's anxiety or it could be I have migraine headaches. You could say to a person, so you have migraine headaches. And this isn't something that you decide to do, is it? The frame changes immediately. Well, no, I don't. I don't want to do that. It just seems to happen. But as soon as you start talking about it, so you don't decide to be anxious, or you don't decide to have migraines, or you don't decide this. It's as though there's some part of you that generates this experience. And people usually, there's a subtle little nod, going on over here, right? And I think people usually go, yeah, that's right. It's not, I don't want to have this headache, or I don't want to be a smoker, or I don't want to, there's some part of me running this behavior. So if we can find some way to interact with that part and figure out what it's up to, because, remember, somewhere on the wall it must say, are there presuppositions hiding amongst all these things? It must say that there's a couple. It must say that there's a positive intention behind every behavior. You've heard this, right? And if there's a positive intention behind every behavior, then I would suspect that every behaving part is positively intended. So when people start out with, I've got this thing, I smoke, it happens to me, or I don't even know how people hold it anymore. It's a little hard to think. There's all kinds of ways to consider it, but it's as though this affliction, is something to be reckoned with, as opposed to there's an aspect of you that's engaged in something that it considers positive, that it's manifesting through you, whether it's smoking, whether it's having migraine headaches, or getting anxious about seminars. If I think about my old getting ready for first Monday nights strategy, my seminar thing that I was talking about, well, what do you suppose could be behind what could be an intention of the part of me that's generating all of that yada, yada, yada? To do the best job I can, right? To make sure that you're properly prepared, and and that you really have something valuable to offer, and good refreshments. I think that's an important part of it. Sure, exactly right. So it's fairly obvious in that case, isn't it? Now, maybe a little less obvious in terms of I have migraine headaches. But we're just talking hypothetically now. So if any of you have migraine headaches, understand I'm not saying this is how it is for you. I certainly wouldn't suggest that I have any idea about that without talking to you more specifically. But I'm wondering, just in a general sense, just to get the frame going, if you think about what could be a positive intention behind a part of you that generates migraine. It's telling you you need to take it easy and relax for a little bit. You're overstressed. It's a possibility, right? It's one possible positive intention behind that part. Another one, by the way, is that some people have got their lives organized and the people in their lives organized to really sort of take good care of them when they get migraine headaches, and so it's one way to get the warm fuzzies that you need from the world, or to not have to cook if you don't want to cook that night, or to whatever it is. I mean, there are potential secondary gains or positive intentions behind these things, right? What about smoking? Since you brought it up, Rich.
I think maybe she finds it relaxing. It's a way of relaxing, but what's positive about it? I don't know.
And curious, well,
I never smoked it, so maybe that's why I can't see why it's...
well, it probably has a whole lot of functions, and usually, by the way, for smoking, there tends to be multiple positive intentions, and well, you arguably, depending on how you organize it or how you think about it, you could say that there are multiple parts involved, because there's a part that's interested in helping achieve a degree of relaxation, and maybe that's what they do, is that they smoke to relax. I'm sorry? Socializing, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, in some companies, the truth of the matter is that that people aren't allowed to smoke in the workplace. So there's a smoking area maybe outside the back door or whatever it is, or maybe there's a designated place in the building, one little corner where smokers can go, or whatever they've got. And in that one little dedicated corner, the guy who delivers the inner office mail and the guy who's one of the corporate vice presidents actually talk to each other. There's a connection available by hanging out in that smoking place that might not be available otherwise. Best place to get the gossip. That's exactly right. Right. So it could be about relaxation. Could be about fitting into the community, socializing. Yeah, I've done all my jobs, so now I get to take a break. Or guess what? I've got this job to do, so. It's a nice little way of avoiding getting started at it. And before I do this, I'm going to have a cigarette. Right. So there's some aspect of your being, if you will, or of the smoker's being, that's up to something, that's trying to accomplish something for you, or it wouldn't even do this. That it made sense when they first learned it. And sometimes, by the way, it doesn't make sense any longer. And it's become habituated, but when whatever the habit was, or the unwanted behavior, the recurring unwanted behavior began, it made all kinds of sense in the context of what they were up to.
Especially with like younger kids, if it's like, oh, mom says I can't smoke, but I'm a man, I can, I'll smoke because she says I can, and then the habit has some traction and just.
Yeah.
In.
Yeah, and whatever tag they want to put on it, whether we want to call it rebellion or whether we call it the assertion of the self, independence, something like that. Absolutely, these are valuable functions. And so you need to appreciate the part of you that generates those things. And what's been happening, by the way, see, here's the real trick question. Why do you suppose they call it reframing? You did reframing, right? You did context and content reframing last time. Right, where you change the meaning of things? Well, in six-step reframing, the meaning of what has changed? In this dialogue, as we've been talking about this behavior called smoking, people show up in my office asking for exorcisms. They don't say it that way exactly, but it's basically the presentation, right? They come in and they say, I have this thing, and it seems to have control of me. It possesses me, and I can't get rid of it. And what I want you to do, Father Michael, Brother Michael, is open the ritual book and say the magic words so that we can cast this thing out into the bottomless pit for all eternity. Right, or something like that. Just saying, I want you to depossess me of this spirit that's got a hold of me that I don't want to have to deal with. And that's how people think about it. Now suddenly we're saying, well, no, actually that part of you is doing something for you, is doing something useful, is doing something valuable for you. And you need to appreciate that value. So that you can find some other way to get that stuff taken care of. That you need to have a way to socialize, you need to have a way to get a break. And there's a part of you that runs the department of socialization and the department of get a break, or whatever it is. They want to do their job, they want to be effective. And the funny thing is, if you get rapport with them, they're interested in finding other ways that they can do their job that would be even better. But instead, what people do is they approach their problems with a kind of animosity. Oh my God, I've got this terrible thing in me and I want to get rid of it. And you're not really going to get a lot of cooperation from internal parts if they understand that the purpose of your meeting with this practitioner is to get them exiled, or worse, executed, or something else, right? We're going to get rid of your smoking part. I want to get rid of that. I want to get rid of my migraine headaches. Does this make some sense to you?
Yes, that part is protecting you, isn't it? So, like one of my cocaine addicts, and meth addicts, his part's there to stop him have anxiety, to stop him have anger issues, to get him up in the morning. So if you immediately exercise that sort of thing, he's not going to be able to do any of them. So that part is actually...
Yeah. You'll have somebody in the world. So if you take a smoker and just take their cigarettes away from them, and I don't mean to be just specifying smoking. By the way, for the record, at least in the world that I live in, I don't think that there's anything right or wrong about any of these things. Whether if you want to smoke, smoke. That's fine. If you don't want to smoke and you're smoking, however, then I think it's time to consider something. But I wouldn't want to come at this with any kind of righteousness about whatever it is that we do. The point is we do what we do, and if you don't like it, there are ways to change it. But you need to understand, you need to have rapport with your own self in order to be able to move things along. Milton Erickson, when he was talking about psychiatric patients, said our patients are our patients primarily because they've lost rapport with their own unconscious mind. And the job of psychotherapy, as he saw it, was to reestablish rapport. Milton's understanding is when you've got good rapport going on inside and good communication going on inside, that problems tend to take care of themselves pretty readily. You have a little more flexibility. But when you're in there instead going, I've got this war going on with this part of myself, and I wish I wasn't a smoker, well, that's kind of crazy. Because, you don't have to smoke. But it's one thing that you can do. And if you like it, then go for it. But if you don't like it, find out what it's been doing for you and find other ways to have that happen. This is all making sense, right?